Good evening. This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for February 22nd, 2016. Before we get started, a couple of things to discuss. If you plan on addressing the board, could you please sign in with your name and address before addressing the board? And second of all, if everybody could check your electronic device and make sure it's turned off. Okay, our first order of business is under continuances. ZB 2016-1, the petition's a variance. The applicant is Victor Kenobi. The property is located at 7379 Viney Street. And the proposal is to construct a new three-family residential building without meeting lot side yard setbacks, lot area per dwelling unit, and open space per unit requirements. The proposed project is located in the traditional multifamily zoning district and requires variance approval from the zoning board under section 5.1 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Is the applicant here? Yes, sir. Are you, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
My name is Timothy Kihiko.
Is the mic on?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Yes, again, Mr. Chairman, my name is Timothy Kihiko, and I represent Mr. Victor Ganobi on this matter. Like I had said on the other board, is that we had a four-family that caught on fire, and it's mostly burnt. Even though we have a right to rebuild the same four-family, we think it won't be a better use of space because there haven't been enough parking on the whole street over there. So we propose to build 3 units where we could have two parking garage underneath and 2 outside, as the other board recommended. I know the street quite well, and it's kind of difficult, especially on the winter. Like last year when we had a big storm, it was a little bit hard for people to locate parking and or to do the movement right on the back alleys. Thank you.
So you went before the planning board and you got approval from the planning board with a list of conditions, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And so you're here this evening, and I've talked to Judy about this a couple of times. I know one of the actions the planning board had for you was to actually move the building, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So one of the questions I did have was, by moving the building, would that meet some of the requirements? And we still, so by moving the building, Judy, just so the public knows, the side yard and any of the other requirements are now met by moving the building. Is that correct?
Yes, the decision by the planning board was the requirement to move the building so that they have 18 and a half feet setback on one side on the western side lot and 11.3 on the eastern lot. And the requirement is 10^25.
So that was a question I had.
Yes,
I had for
I have the
PPD.
new plan, if I could pass it along.
What's that?
I have the new plan with the 18, with what they
Well,
recommended.
did we receive anything on the new plan that he's talking about? Okay. Do you only have one copy?
Yes, I have
Okay.
one right here.
Could I see that, please?
Sure.
Okay. So Judy, this is, your department doesn't have this either at this point, is that correct? Your department doesn't have this particular document? Okay. Okay, yep.
He'd not sent me that as
But
of
this
yet.
is, as he stated, this is in reflection to what the planning board had requested. Okay.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
So in relationship to that, the other things we talked about, and that's meaning myself and DPD, was, you know, what is the real intent of you being here now? So in the petition, as it was stated, there's a couple of other setbacks, and one is the meeting the lot side yard setback. So that's still, what's the requirement there, Judy? What are we talking about that they're not meeting there?
So the remaining variances are actually lot area per dwelling unit.
Yep.
And open space.
Yep.
And also the third story.
Okay, so if I look at the petitioner's relief sought table that he gave us this evening, he shows the minimum side yard for relief. He shows minimum lot area per dwelling unit for relief, minimum front yard for relief, and the open space per unit. So I know we've been talking about three. He has four listed here. I just want to see which ones were.
So we're really just talking about the third story.
Correct, which is the open space per unit that they're talking about. Is that correct?
No, the open space, that is a different variance.
Okay, so
Because of his lot coverage, he doesn't have enough open space. And also the lot area per dwelling unit, because again, as you can see, the building does cover much of the lot,
Yeah.
as it did when it was a 4-unit building also. It covered a large part of the lot.
Okay. So as far as satisfying, I'll say 2 of the 3. I mean, I know I watched the meeting with the planning board, and in fact, I think you had at least 2, if not 3 meetings with planning board.
Yes.
And I know once you received their okay, there was quite a few conditions that were put on, and there were some modifications, which you as the petitioner were cognizant of. As I've stated to Judy a couple of times, you know, I just trying to understand what we as a board are doing at this point. To me, the real challenge the board has is your top floor.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell the board what your intention is with the top floor?
In regards to the top floor, what we're trying to have is another extra space for the residents there. Given that they won't have a basement or anything, we just figured instead of having just dead air sitting on the attic, why don't we make some space, some living space for them? So
Living space or storage space?
living space. You know, I mean, there's one property on Roger Street that I think set a good precedence, and what they have there is just they have a pool table right on top of it. They finished it up. They have a pool table, so I think it's a cool idea just to go on the attic and, you know, have more space for relax. Maybe the grown-ups or the adults, you know, they have some space over there.
So is there any living quarters you're proposing? Bedrooms?
No, we're not calling it a bedroom or anything. We're just calling it a bonus room. But somebody could, you know, use it however they want. But we just think, given that we had actually 6 bedrooms before, and the lot was even the lot that was covered was a lot bigger than what we have. We kind of think for a good return on investment on all this work, we need to have more thing to entice whoever the buyer or the people living in there.
So how do we handle a bonus room as far as occupancy, Judy? What I heard was, you know, it's a bonus room, but you can use it any way you want. So
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be looked at in terms of a bedroom when it's constructed and when there's
Okay.
inspections done by the building department, and when they review actual construction plans, they review to see that it's got the space that's required, that it's got the egress that's required. So all that gets reviewed when they go through the building permit process. So the reason that we're talking about this tonight with the zoning board is the maximum 3 stories in this zoning district. There is a maximum of 3 stories. So with the garage on the bottom floor, and then the first 2 floors and the 3rd floor, he actually has 4 stories.
And that's because of having the underground garage?
Having the, right.
Which I know, again, because of parking, and that's one of the kudos that the planning board gave the petitioner is he was providing garage parking and then one more, correct?
Well, actually, it's 2 spaces underneath each unit. So
Correct.
each unit will be in the garage on the each car will be in the garage on the ground floor of each unit. And whereas before, there were 4 units with no parking at all.
Right. But if he didn't have the garage, he could have 3 stories, we'll say it that way.
That's
and
true.
Meet the requirements.
That's true.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a photo of the ones on Roger Street, if that will help.
Well, you can hand it to me. I don't know how much help it will be, but it'll give me some ideas. Is it? Okay, yep, great, thank you. Do you have anything else you'd like to address with the board before I open it up to the public?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to spend a lot of time going over the conditions from the 2 planning board meetings with the understanding, again, that you've already accepted the conditions from the planning board, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I just have a couple comments. I mean, I definitely would like to see something done there. I've been out there a couple times since this first came up on the agenda, and there's actually 2 or 3 homes that appear to have been damaged in that fire. It looks like the fire went over to the building to the right of your building, and then maybe even the next one over, or that one's just under construction. But I just would like to see something done there. And I like the idea of having the garage underneath the building, because I can't foresee anyone legally parking in that passageway, because it's really only wide enough for 1 car, it seems, when I drove down there the last couple of weeks. So I think that's a great idea too, and I'm not too concerned with the 3rd floor. It's really more of a half floor, and there's 1 room up there. If someone decides to use it as a bedroom, and like Judy said, it goes through all the proper channels with the building department, I'm happy with that. So one thing I would like to mention, just as an aside, if you could have someone from your organization go out there and clean up the little alley behind your building. It looks like people from the neighborhood are using it sort of as a dumping ground, and I know it's not going to be a condition of approval tonight, but I would just like to see there's broken furniture, bags of trash. There's just looks like I said, people are, because they know the building's abandoned, they're using it as a place to illegally dump trash and things. So if you could just could do that, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll definitely do that. We already have quote for taking the building down, so as soon as we get the approval, we're gonna fence it out and take the building down right away.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Sam?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I think it's always a good idea when, a lot or a space can be rebuilt. You're downsizing too from the original building that stood there before. And, it's always a good thing where you can make your own off-street parking. So I think that's a good idea. And overall, you know, you worked well with the planning board to meet all the conditions. So overall, I don't see any problems with this petitioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to mention that I think this plan is a big improvement. I especially like the covered parking, but in addition to that, you have the ability to park off-street in front of the covered parking. So you have, in essence, 4 parking spaces available per unit, which gives you a total of 12 parking spaces where we didn't have any off-street parking before, which is a huge benefit. The other thing that I see is that it appears that each unit has access to its own green space.
Yes.
So that it would be another huge benefit that there's a segregated, or what appears to be a segregated green space for each unit. Another big plus is that the building itself sits back further from the street. I think the previous building was probably closer to 15 feet from the street. This is about 20 feet from the street, which gives it a little more of buffer. So going up the additional story, I think, is somewhat, and it's not really a full story because it does have the roof line incorporated into it. And you're down to 3 units instead of 4. So this is a lot of pluses. I think this is a worthy trade-off for the amount of pluses that we receive in this plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I agree with the revisit to the plan. I did watch the planning board meeting. I agree with my colleagues as it relates to the green space and the parking. I think you did a good job taking into consideration what was provided by the planning board and moving forward. So wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too agree with all the comments of my colleagues here, and I also did watch the planning board meeting, and I appreciate you working with them over the course with trying to readjust the plans, especially, I'm sure it takes a lot to move. It would have to take a lot to move to try to adjust for the parking and keeping all this green space, so it's we just don't have one big building just sitting there without any form of vegetation or something. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, I agree with all my board members. I know I might have grilled you a little bit with some of the questions, but I think at the end of the day, you know, the planning board, I think, took a lot of time and effort with you and with your cooperation. We're taking a burned-down building or burned-out building and bringing it back, which I think is a huge plus. And even more than cooperative with working with the city to try to bring this building back. And as far as the parking, which Dennis mentioned, but we were talking about that top unit. Obviously, by providing the parking, you're releasing, a burden on the city streets, which again is good for your project. So I know for the top unit, I don't have any issue with, if it's a bonus room or whatever it ends up being, just because of the garages increasing that height level or story level. I think there's a benefit to the city by providing, like you've done with the parking. And as far as, meeting the criteria for the variances, I mean, in this case, obviously, the special hardship here was if we take a building that's basically in disrepair and we're bringing it back to life, and definitely improving the neighborhood by the finished product, meeting the public good and intent of the zoning. You're bringing back housing, and I know there was a discussion about rentals versus private ownership. I'm not sure which direction you're moving on that, but we're not voting on that this evening. So, so with that said, I would make a motion to approve the variance. Any members have any other comments, or were there any additional conditions? I know one condition would be that we also condition the vote of the planning board. Any other comments or conditions by anybody? No? Dennis, anything? Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. like to make a motion for ZB 2016-01 for a variance to the number of stories going from 3 stories to a 4-story building, variance for green, open space per unit, and variance for the lot area per dwelling unit, with the following condition, that the condition be conditional of the, accepting the conditions of the planning board.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Bailey,
Approved with conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve with conditions?
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Paglia,
Approved with conditions.
Member Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
and Member Peck.
Approve the conditions.
Okay, sir, you've been approved. We wish you the best of luck. If you want to take this back, I won't need it for this. We will, so Judy, I'll
Thank you.
give you the copy of the plans that the gentleman submitted, so we'll put that into the record. All right, thank you very much. Make sure Judy gets that. Thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2016-4, petitions of variance. The applicant is Craig Smith. Property is located at 26 Calvin Street. And the proposal is to construct a new single-family house without meeting the minimum lot size, minimum lot area per dwelling unit, and minimum lot frontage. The proposed project is located in suburban single-family zoning district and requires variance approval from the zoning board under sections 5.1 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. The board has received communication dated February 2nd from attorney James Flood. I'll read it into the record. As attorney for Craig Smith, I am writing to request that the petition filed in the above manner be withdrawn without prejudice. Since the planning board denied my client's request for a waiver of lot width, the matter cannot go further. Okay, so with that said, could I have a motion, please?
Three, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2016-04 for a variance for Craig Smith to be withdrawn without prejudice.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Chairman Bailey,
Approved.
Member Callahan,
Approved.
Member McCarthy,
Approve.
Member Paglia,
Approved.
Member Perrin,
Approved.
and Member Peck.
Approve.
Well, it's all here, actually. No.
Okay, our next matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2016-6, the petitions of variance. The applicant is Gregory Curtis. The property is located at 111 Rivercliff Road, and the proposal consists of constructing a new single-family dwelling without meeting the frontage requirements in the suburban single-family zoning district. The proposed project requires a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals under Section 5.1 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Mr. Curtis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Gregory Curtis. Members of the board, I'm here tonight not as an attorney, but as an individual and a resident of the city of Lowell. I've lived here my whole life, going on 58 years. Been up in the Belvedere area that entire time, and I'm here before you tonight to discuss the proposal to build a single-family home on property at 111 Rivercliff Road. The property is a unique piece of property in the city. It was purchased by my dad and my mom back in 1978. I think we were probably the 4th or 5th family that has lived in the property since 1882. It was originally about 12 acres. It was all the way down, the property went all the way down to the river, and I can remember as a kid playing down in that area, and it was all woods all the way down to the river, and it was a dead-end street. The property was constructed in 1882 by Dr. George Pillsbury. He was a pretty familiar doctor in the area, I guess at the time, president of the medical board, and he constructed the house, Victorian-style house at that time. And it went up through the years, through the Burkes and then the Dr. Leahy. Finally, in the 60s, family, the Posnicks, bought it, and then we ended up buying it from the Posnicks. So there really hasn't been a lot of families that have been there, and essentially the house has remained unchanged for that many years with regard to a few things. Back in the time my dad purchased the property, they did not sell us the land down to the river. It was about 8.5 acres. They retained that, the Posnicks. They ended up selling it to a developer who eventually put in Heritage Drive and a couple of other streets and built around 15 houses down there. It's a nice development, and it's well below the elevation where this house at 111 Rivercliff sits. Later in the late 1970s and the early 1980s, they constructed Gina Lane. Gina Lane comes in from East Merrimack Street. There was probably about 7 or 8 homes, maybe more, that were built on Gina Lane, and that basically comes up and abuts the property. So it has developed over the years. Rivercliff Road was originally called New Street. It was part of Tewksbury. Tewksbury annexed the property to Lowell in 1906, I believe, and everything from what you know as Buttman Road up towards Tewksbury Line was all Tewksbury at the time, all became part of Lowell. The road at the time, New Street, was put in by the Pillsburys to gain access to County Road. County Road is now Andover Street. So back in 1880, 1882, in that time, they needed access to get up there, I guess, by horse and buggy, but that's what they used. So on the original plans to the property, the road comes down from Andover Street and takes a right turn at what is essentially now the entrance to the property, and it travels 243 feet into the property at a width of 50 feet. That has been there since 1880, or maybe even earlier, because it's shown on plans from the 1870s without the house even being there. It was part of the Worcester estate, and so that road has been there for quite some time. My objective is to try to keep that property in the condition that it's in, with the exception of carving off one lot as you drive in the driveway to the left-hand side to build a single-family home for myself to live in with my wife. I love the old piece of property. It's just too much. It's a large house. Love to see it go to somebody that has a family that would enjoy it as much as our family did for many years. And it weighs heavily on me because I've had many options from developers that wanted to come in and basically buy the parcel. The parcel is almost 5 acres. It's unheard of that you have a 5-acre parcel 1 mile out of downtown Lowell. But with my proposal, I'm proposing to basically take off a piece on the left-hand side, which is all wooded or grass. It's about 32,000 square feet, and leave the remaining 3.6 acres with the original house and the carriage house, and there's a pool there, and there's a lot of land that goes all the way down the hill. So that's my intent, and I think my concern was at the time that we don't have a formal street that's been built to street standards, but as maybe the board knows, there's several ways you can have a public road in Lowell, even in Massachusetts. It can be through the city accepting it as a public road, which they did for Rivercliff Road in 1909. So 1909, Rivercliff Road was approved by the city council to become a road. It was a dead end. It dead-ended basically at the Pillsbury property. But the plan and the original street continued is what is now the driveway. It's the driveway that goes into the main house. It goes about probably 300 feet to the main house, and then it goes back another couple of hundred feet to the carriage house in the back. So you have access, that access has been uninterrupted access for probably 100 years to get to the house. It's been used by our family, by the families before then, and it's always been a driveway or access into the property. Other features of the property has in that driveway or that roadway, has an 8-inch water main that runs through the property. It goes all the way out to Stafford Road. I think it was put in back in the 50s or the 60s, probably the 50s, when they were developing Stafford Road and all what they call broad acres. It also has a fire hydrant about 25 or 30 feet into the property, which is part of that. There's gas that runs up to the house. There are electric poles that run along the roadway, 245 feet, and then tie the house into the electric that's been there for a long time. So, in essence, it is a roadway. Is it built to city standards? Probably not. Do I want to build it to city standards? Probably not. I want to build one house, which my driveway, if I build this house, would be about 30 feet into the property, would make a left, and would then curve around into the garage. Very close to the entrance of the two streets, Gina Lane and Rivercliff. They're both major wide roads. Rivercliff has no sidewalk. Gina Lane does. Gina Lane is in tough shape. It needs to be repaved at some point, but it's been out there for about 30 years the way it is. The only concern I would have in developing this to ask to put a road in for the frontage is the fact that we've had several occasions where people have come speeding up Gina Lane and driven right into the property. And several occasions they had police behind them. Other occasions they drove all the way into the property and drove around the back of the property and got stuck in the woods because they may have been out at a Christmas party. So there's been a few incidents like that. There's been a few people that have driven into the wall and knocked the wall over. So when you come up, and I can show you some photographs, when you come up Gina Lane, you're looking right into the driveway. All the difference is Gina Lane is probably 24 feet of pavement, and when you get into the driveway or the roadway into the property, it's about 13 feet of pavement. So my appeal to you is the fact that it's not necessary to construct one home to have road frontage. I have 110 feet of frontage on the plan. The plan meets all other aspects of the zoning ordinances for the single-family suburban area. The only thing it doesn't meet is the fact that it has 110 feet of frontage on what is a road, but not a road that's built to standards of, Rivercliff or Gina or some of the other roads. We've always pulled the garbage out and put it out at the corner of Rivercliff. Snow plows have come in sometime to plow a little bit to get to the fire hydrant. I've always maintained it and plowed it. I would continue to do the same. I think it's really in the best interest. I know some of my neighbors are here, and I've gone around and spoken to a lot of the neighbors. Again, I lived there from 1978 up until I moved into my own house in the early 90s. And I've known the neighborhood and known the neighbors for many, many years. I know Mrs. Sorokin that's here all my life for 55 years. It's a beautiful area. It's a beautiful piece of property. I'd like to maintain it that way. My goal is not to give it up to a developer that would come in and raise it and put a cul-de-sac in and probably put 5 or 6, 12,000 square foot lots in there and make a lot of money. My idea is to live there. I'm born and raised in Lowell. I'm born and raised in Belvedere. I love the area. I want to stay there. I'd love to see somebody else still with a large tract of land take on that house. It does need some work. It needs some updating. It was all updated back in the 60s and a little bit more in the 80s early 80s when my parents moved in. But, it's there, and it's, I think, something that really should hopefully be preserved by people. So, is there any detriment? I don't see any detriment at all. I don't see any derogation from the zoning ordinance. Can I make the driveway a little bit wider? Between the pillars, I don't know if you've been out there, but between the pillars, it's 21 feet. So I could easily take there's some sort of decorative gates that my father put up years ago, and Those can easily come down to make the roadway a little bit wider and bring it in 15, 18 feet all the way to the 110-foot mark. I don't want to disturb the look of the property. It's a beautiful piece of property. Safety concerns, fire trucks can go in there. Fire trucks have come in there many times. Police can get in there. I don't need any garbage trucks coming in there. They don't need to because they pick up outside. All the utilities are there, basically, already, so we don't have to worry about, utilities. And what activity is there going to be? For the last 38 years, the only activity has been the Curtises that have driven in there or guests that have come to the house. Now, if I was to build a house just inside the driveway to the left, I would be pulling in there, and whoever buys the house would be pulling into that spot. So it's a win-win, I think, all the way around. I think the neighbors hopefully support it. It's still leaving a large tract of land with a lot of privacy, and that's kind of how I'm going to market the property to people. I don't think there's any detriment to the zoning. I don't think there's any derogation from what we're looking to do, and that is to preserve the area. And I know there's really no safety concern. I don't see any safety concern if a variance was granted for the frontage requirement. I don't see that there would be a safety concern in any regard. You have a fire hydrant right outside the property, and the actual house that I'm looking to build would be roughly maybe 60 feet from Rivercliff and Gina Lane, 60 to 70 feet away. So you're not that far of a distance. You're not like you're building all the way into the back of the property. You're building right into the left. It's a nice piece of property that slopes down. I'm looking to build almost possibly a one-level house with a walkout type basement. I'm building a garage down in the back, and the reason I'm building the garage is I'm losing all my storage space. I have a few classic cars, I have a few different things, and I need garage space for that. It's going to be a nice-looking garage. It's all wooded down below. I think some of the neighbors that are down on Heritage, when its foliage is filled in the spring, you don't even see up that way. It's all filled in. It's always been woods. We've always left it woods. The area that I'm looking to develop probably was grass area. There was a couple of old catalpa trees that were rotted. One fell into another one. I basically took them down. We've had some bad luck in the last couple of years with beautiful oak tree that fell last year. It rotted, basically ants, and it split in the middle and went down. It hit the pine tree, but thank God it didn't knock the pine tree over. I've lost a couple of ash trees, so it's an ongoing process. When you have a house like that, you have old trees that always need to be maintained, but there's also a safety factor involved too. So I took a couple of rotted and decayed trees down last year, and it's still a beautiful piece of property. There's a beech tree in the front of the main house that it's got to be 6-7 feet across, and it's probably 200 years old. It's it's very healthy. We have another beech tree that I'm going to retain. So I feel it's a good petition. I don't know what else I can say. I'll be open to answer any questions. I have pictures, and I also have some simple letters that a few of the neighbors signed that are not here tonight. One, Mr. Landry, that's down in Florida, Eddie Bolin, these are all direct abutters. I know Mrs. Sorokin is here tonight, and Luann Gagnon. So I'll give you those just so you'll have them for your file.
Thank you.
Just in closing, I mean, the bottom line is I have a parcel of land that's 4.5 acres right now, which I have 50 feet of frontage on Rivercliff Road, technically, if you want to call the end of Rivercliff Road where the road stops. The road that goes in, that we've never owned, that's always been a street, is 243 feet long by 50 feet wide. If someone was to develop that property, there's a ready street. They'd have to build it out to street standards, and they'd have to put a cul-de-sac in and all of that. I'm looking to avoid that, keep the property as pristine as we can, and keep the neighbors happy. I think it's the best scenario all the way around. So I'll leave it at that. I'll open it up to any questions. I also have photographs, if you need them, of roadways or potential property that I'd be looking to build.
Okay, I'm not going to ask any questions I may later on, but if if you're all set with your presentation, I'll open it up to the public, and then
Sure.
we'll entertain the board. Thank you. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone here that'd like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of... I'm sorry? Ma'am, you have to come to the mic if you want to speak.
We're not really opposing. but we have
Give us
great-
I need your name and address, please.
Sorry, it's Patricia Pingree. I
Yep.
live at 142 Stafford, which
One-
is, we're one of the abutters.
Okay, 142 Stafford? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Should I sign in here?
sure, you can sign and then tell us.
We don't really have a problem with Mr. Curtis's plan to put his house there.
Yep,
But as he says, he doesn't plan to sell to a developer, but we don't have any assurances that that's not going to happen
yep,
with the amount of land and the amount of building that's been going on around us since we moved here, like 12 years ago. Have a feeling that the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to be a big construction site right behind our backyard, and there's going to be like 10 houses put in there for the next 5 years.
okay.
So that's our concern.
So your concern is what happens with the property after? Is that
Right,
what
the
your
other
concern
house,
is? Yep.
I know he's planning to build a house on part of it, but the big house that's right in our, we can see it, it's right there,
Yep.
is Mr. Curtis says, it's going to take a lot of work. We highly doubt somebody's going to buy it and fix it up for, he thinks it's going to be $300,000 to fix it up. It's probably going to be more than that. And we have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of houses put in back there, and that's our concern. That's why we're here tonight.
Okay,
Okay?
good, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'm going to open it up to the board. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Karras, for your narrative. I enjoyed that kind of brief history about, the city and the property you had. I think, the proposal that you spoke about, it's a good idea. I do have some concerns about, I guess, further development down the road. Could you speak to that at all, about concerns of maybe, you're saying you're trying to preserve that property as to its original historical purpose as much as possible, but I think there's some concern about, I guess, further development throughout the years.
Excuse me, I couldn't understand that, about developing it?
Yeah, the property,
Well-
your property, I guess.
Again, I'm looking to build my house and then to sell the property to someone who will keep the house the way it is. It'd be very probably cost prohibitive for somebody to come in and pay the kind of money they're gonna have to pay for that house and then decide they're gonna put a roadway in for 1 or 2 house lots. It's gonna be very expensive, because if you're gonna do that, now you get into the whole subdivision approval business, and you're gonna have to put in a roadway. Roadways can cost you $300 a foot. And I really don't think anybody that's interested in buying that house is buying it to build 1 or 2 houses. I think what I want to market it as is the fact that someone will continue, someone that loves old homes, someone that wants to preserve that home, wants to put the TLC that it needs to get it back up to what it should be. It needs updating. The house was completely updated in the 1950s, and I only know that because my dad's bathroom had pink tile in it, so it was just the way it went. It was restored, beautiful woodwork inside, but no, I have no intentions to sell that to a developer who's going to raise it and put houses in. I want to sell it to somebody that wants to keep it. Can I stop them from doing something if they wanted to? Probably not. It's their property if they buy it, but I'm going to be living there. I don't want somebody taking that house. If someone was going to do that, I would have done that. If I thought that would have been the best scenario, I would have bought, I own the property, I would have taken the property down and put the cul-de-sac in there and picked the best lot out of them, but It always bothered me to think that because, you know, that house was built in 1880. It deserves to be a part of kind of Lowell's history, and I think it will be. And you're not going to find another piece of property like that close to downtown with that kind of privacy. You're not up on Andover Street. You may see beautiful homes on Andover Street, and I lived there for 17 years. It's awful to live there. All you hear is cars, and you hear the thump-thump of the concrete road. It's terrible. So when you come down where we are, you know, I get up in the morning and look outside and see a hawk chasing a squirrel, or see a family of foxes that are running through the property. So there's a lot to be said. And the people down on Heritage, when I talk to a couple of the neighbors, you know, they like the wilderness part of it. They look up in the back and they see the trees, they see animals, they see some, you know, some beautiful foliage in the fall. So that's how I want to keep it. So my intent is not to sell it and see it go to a developer that would, at the very most, you know, he wouldn't have the ability by the size of the lot that I've taken off, you know, you'd be hard pressed. You can't build down below. Down below, it's all wet and you can't get to it. The only place you can build is up on top, and you'd have to take the house down, and I don't think that would happen.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Curtis. You know, I do hope that you preserve this kind of part of the history of the city. And overall, you know, I think it is, you know, from all all things I've heard about it, it's a beautiful property, and, you know, I hope you keep it that way. So overall, I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, just have a couple of questions about the property. You did address a lot of the comments from the planning department. I think there's one comment regarding the building, the new construction that you're putting on, as far as what the elevations look like. Do you have any updates for us on that?
On the construction of the home, my idea of the home is to keep it simple, keep it fairly small. We'd like to have a one-level home and have a walkout basement. I have some design pictures of what I think the house could possibly look like, but can't really find anything yet that I really love. My wife may love it, but I don't love it yet, so I got to see what we can do. But a couple of different designs here if you want to look at.
Great. So it looks like a very compatible building construction style for the neighborhood.
I'm not planning on building a modern style home. If anything, it's going to look very in character with what's there. That house was technically built as a Victorian, and then my dad decided to make it more like an English Tudor, so it was stuccoed back in the early 80s, and I never agreed with it, but it's still a beautiful home. It has beautiful roof lines. No, my idea is to hopefully possibly build a one-level home. That's why I think you see the foundation size a little bit larger. You know, master bedroom on the first floor, walkout basement because of the topography of the back of the land. And I think I brought a couple of pictures of a potential garage for the back, which would just be a very straightforward pitched roof garage. And honestly, it's going to be so, the garage would be so far down in the back and lower, I'll probably be looking over it when I'm looking out the back of the house, the way the topography of the land falls. But then again, it's encompassed by a lot of vegetation and a lot of trees that you won't even see it once the vegetation grows in. And it'll be a nice-looking building. I'm not going to build anything that I don't want to look at.
So I think I'm pretty satisfied with Lot 1 and the intentions for Lot 1, and so it really is Lot 2. So the existing house that's there, how many square feet is that house?
The actual size of the house, well, the house is a three-story house. The actual footprint of the house is not that large, but being 3 stories, I think it's around 7,000 square feet.
Okay.
And, you know, over the years, we added a deck to the back. We put a swimming pool in when we first moved in. But other than that, it's pretty much remained the same. The interior has remained the same. We converted an old porch in the back. There was a screen porch, kind of jealousy windows, to a more permanent type 3-season porch. But It's a large home. It goes up a full 3 stories. There's no attic above, to get to above the 3rd floor, but, it's a big house.
What's the intent of the driveway, once the new property is built, if it were to be built?
Yeah, the driveway,
that's-
you
is
see
that-
where I show where the driveway is going to come out. Basically, the corner of the new house would basically sit on a portion of the corner of the loop part of the driveway. So I would either remove the loop and just have the driveway end underneath the porte cochere, or I would loop it around a little tighter and just come back out to the existing driveway and make basically a smaller loop. Instead of being a teardrop, it would make kind of a backwards P and come back into the driveway.
And there's plenty of room to do that.
Plenty of room. Plenty of room.
Okay. And then the width of the proposed roadway extension, 20 feet.
I made, I put that potential for the roadway in there because I received from the engineering department that, they want to see a road built to road standards. And the whole idea of getting a variance is so I don't have to meet that requirement of the 110 feet on a existing city road. It can certainly be a private way, but I want to build it out to the extent where it's going to be for safety purposes. And I'll be talking, with the engineering department about that to finalize that. But my goal here tonight is to get an approval on a variance for frontage. If that happens, then I still have to go finish up an A&R plan, talk to the different departments. I've already seen the plan. I've submitted it. I've submitted revisions. And if everything goes according to plan, hopefully get a sign-off on it.
So we're looking to provide a variance for frontage for Lot 2?
For Lot 1. Lot 2 already exists. It's been there. It's a pre-existing, non-conforming use, and it's always been there. So
I don't see that, though. I see Lot 2 as a new lot because we're changing Lot 2 from the entire lot to now a smaller piece of the entire lot.
Well,
So I
in
see
Lot
that
2,
as a separate lot.
Lot 2 has almost 200 feet of frontage on what is the roadway
Okay.
that would end, if I was to bring the roadway in, meaning the driveway, make it a little wider, it would essentially be what we have right now.
Okay.
Which is stopping it, then the driveway would continue from there.
I have a question for you, Judy. The current non-conforming lot, what frontage does it currently have? Is it the 50 feet of frontage that it currently has? That's across River Cliff as it's paved, as an accepted street?
So its frontage is actually River Cliff Road as unimproved. Right now, it's really a driveway width. It's not improved to the extent that engineering is required that it be for this new, for the new house. So right now, the frontage is basically the existing driveway within the River Cliff Road right-of-way.
So it's allowed to have frontage on a paper street, basically?
The existing, yes.
Existing.
Yes.
And so it'd be reducing that from its 200 or almost 300 feet to roughly 180 feet of frontage on that paper street.
Right, so, I mean, essentially, we've said that this house it's an existing lot, and it has frontage on River Cliff,
Yep.
so we are taking away part of it. So, you're right, they are two new lots, and the strict requirement in SSF is 90 feet of frontage
So we meet the frontage for Lot 2.
with the existing driveway, essentially. Yes.
So that's the technicality. I'm just I'm struggling with the concept of a existing lot not on a city street that's designed per city standards. It's a driveway. So, although there are lots of streets that are 13 feet wide in the city, I know of
Well,
several.
again, you have to remember that this has been a roadway. This was a roadway long before the city of Lowell even came into existence to own the property down there. It's never been owned by us. It's always been a road to go out. So there's an easement for a roadway by prescription.
Nope.
And I understand that
So-
we're not changing what the access is out from the main house. It's still that roadway and that driveway.
So that's the confusion for me. Why is there an issue with the new lot having a need to have the roadway improved?
Well, the need to have the roadway improved always comes up when you are doing an additional building. So, yes, this house has been there, as the applicant has said, since,
Yep.
you know, the 1880, and has had, you know, rights to pass and repass, and he can, he does meet the requirements for access to that existing lot. However, when you're now building a new house and it's, you know, 2016, and you have standards for roads and for frontage and for access and safety, it makes sense to say, okay, at this point, you're building a new house, we really need to have the new access to go with that new house.
Perfect. I understand now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have no questions. That final question and answer session answered my curiosity as well as it related to that section of the street, so thank you.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Curtis, thank you very much for the presentation. It is a very lovely piece of property and a very unusual situation that you put in. And I guess one of the things that I was concerned about, but I think it was already answered, with regards to the proposed roadway, also noted on the plans were that the gates and the wall were intended to be removed. Is that your intention?
Well, when I talked to the engineering department, they want, 20 feet is in between the two gates. So the two gates would come off. That gives you 21 feet. Bring that in at 20 or 21 feet, all the way down to the 100-foot mark to give you a little bit more leeway. I'm not going to be driving down there. I'll be going in 10 feet and making a left and turning into a driveway. But it does give a little more room if there's any two-way traffic, which I don't know what two-way traffic would be coming out of there. There's only the one home. Again, it's kind of a gray area. Do I even need to have a variance, or can I just, based on the roadway? But the engineering department would like to see it built out a little bit more. I'm going to be speaking with them. They still would have to sign off on the plan. Building department would have to sign off on the plan, so, and Judy would have to sign off on it. So we, a couple of things we need to discuss, but I think the start was I tried to put a lot in there that would meet all the requirements for a single-family home. Size of the lot, setback, side yard, elevation, everything that's going to be needed, other than technically I'm not on a built-out public way, River Cliff Road, that portion of River Cliff Road. But it always has been a road. It's not really a paper street. People confuse a paper street with what is a roadway that's been built. Unfortunately, it was built in 1880 or 1890 when they didn't have to build it 24 feet wide and put, heavy trucks over it. There were no vehicles to go over it at that time. So I'm trying to do the best thing, and I'm also trying to, I don't want the neighbors looking out and seeing this dead-end road that has to come in there, and it's not going to look right. There's no safety issue here. It's a beautiful piece of property. I want to keep it that way. I want to live there. I think it meets all the other requirements, and I hope it works. I hope it works for me. I hope it works for everybody that's my neighbors. I've known them all for many, many years.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with that. And I know there was some concern by one of the abutters about selling the property off to possible development. And
No.
I believe that you want to keep this in the family, and keep it with the keep it within the city. And based on what I'm seeing, I know you can't control the future or what's going on, but it does seem, as you said, probably would be very hard for someone to, if you sell it off to someone to develop on that piece of land, but.
If I wanted to go down that road, I wouldn't be in front of you tonight. I would have put the property up for sale and gone somewhere else. But I'm born and raised here. I work down the street. My father grew up at 340 Market Street. We're from Lowell. We've been here our whole lives, and I don't think we're going anywhere. At least I'm not. I got brothers and sisters all over the country, but I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, it is a very beautiful piece of land, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay. So on February 12th, what's my, did I forget Mike? Okay. So I guess I can hold off on my speech. All right, Mike.
Yes, I'm still on the board, Mr. Chairman, so thank you for
Sorry, Mike.
remembering I was down here. Mr. Curtis, I want to apologize. I may have been one of those people chased down your driveway back when I was growing up in Tewksbury and
That's-
racing through. No, I'm just kidding. But
Oh, listen.
I just have two questions for you based on the comments from the planning office, just to follow up on a couple of the things that they asked about and suggested. I think everything has been answered except for, and I had this question too because of the way you have the house angled on the lot. Is there any particular reason for it not to sort of line up with the other homes on Gina?
Honestly, I tweaked it back a little bit, but I've been going out there in the mornings, I've been going out there in the afternoons, I've been seeing the way the sun comes across the property, and it's a nice spot to be just turned very slightly. I mean, it was turned a little more. It's not set in stone yet. It may just go vertical with what the road is and, not be turned at all, but it's kind of a little, the way it is positioned, different angles coming in. The sun comes in, of course, from the east and comes up over, and in the wintertime, you get some nice sun on the back portion of the house, and no particular reason. It may not end up like that, but there will be a final plan when it goes for building permits and footprint and everything else.
Okay, thank you. It's a minor detail, but I was
Yeah.
just, again, following up with what the planning office, the questions that they had. And then, I don't want to beat this driveway question to death, but I guess I will. If we, even if we do approve the variance tonight for the frontage, this city, other departments, particularly the engineers, might still require the petitioner to build a legal street? Because we're not voting on that, on whether or not he has to build a full legal street.
Right, so you're voting on allowing him to create the lot without the full 90 feet of frontage. And so there will be further conversations with the engineering department. They would prefer to have the full 110 feet. But in discussions with the applicant, that may, they may compromise on that. I'm not sure. So at least they will have the variance from the ZBA.
All right, great, thank you. I don't have any further questions. I think it's an interesting idea. It's certainly a very unique lot and house, and if your stated intent is to try to save it, again, I think, as others have mentioned, it might be difficult for a developer because of the slope. I went all the way around down Stafford and to look at it from different angles and noticed it would be pretty hard to build as many houses as some people might speculate just because of the grade. But again, you already mentioned that that's not the intent, so I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
All right. Judy, so on February 12th, is that the last communication we had from DPD, and which summarized building department, city engineer, and then there was the specific comments that came from DPD?
Yes, the February 12th is the last.
Okay.
And as a result of those comments, I did make changes to the plan, putting more information on the plan, putting distances on, continuing the driveway down to what would be the garage, changing the angle of the house a little bit, putting in utilities, showing those on the plan, different things that are going to be needed for the A&R plan anyway, so I figured I'd just put them on the plan now. So that should be what you have that I gave you this evening, Mr. Bailey.
Yep. And I didn't see anything from any city departments, including the fire, so is that correct?
Yeah, we did contact the fire department, and they had no comments.
Yep.
They had no issues because, I mean, there is the fire hydrant that is right there, and they did know that the engineering department was going to be requiring a wider
Yep.
width. So no
The,
requirements from them.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Curtis, the existing wall that's out there right now, and then you have the gate, how much of the wall, is all of the
think
wall being removed, or what's the plan?
No, I think if you're looking at the wall from Gina Lane,
Yep.
just the right side would probably get cut back around 4 to 5 feet. And that would give you more or less 24, 23 feet of width. And I'm trying to take any width, if I'm going to expand that driveway, I'm trying to take that width from the right side and a little bit just from the left side and go straight in. And they did a road profile on the plan to show how that would be. There's already a catch basin right outside the area, so, you know, that wall was put up by my dad. That wall was never there. It was put up by us back in the early 80s, and I think he put the decorative gates on there, but it was always a lot wider. It was always probably just the width of the wall without the gates, and the gates are coming off. They're nice, but they're not necessary. And
Yep.
my only concern is that, as I said in the beginning, you know, we've had instances where people have coming down the road or just think that road continues and drive into the driveway. I had one lady last year drive around the garage, drive into the woods, and spend the whole night there until I found her the next morning. You know, so it's unfortunate that that's how it is. I think at one point they put a right-hand sign only on the tree, but the pine tree fell at one point. It fell into Mrs. Sorokin's yard, so it's unfortunate. We've lost a few trees, but it is what it is. I think I'll talk with engineering and discuss it with them to see what they want, and hopefully we can work out the compromise.
Yeah, so I didn't notice it, but there's no signage at all that indicates
There
like
used to be a sign on a pine tree right in front of the right side of the wall
Yeah.
that said "right turn only,"
Oh, okay.
and unfortunately, it's gone when the tree came down about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
Most people come up, it's a curiosity factor. They'll come up Gina, they'll stop, they'll look in, and then they'll take a right and go up River Cliff, or the same thing, come down. It's kind of a funny turn there, but we don't get a lot of traffic.
Yep. Okay, well, I think, you know, a lot of my, I'm not going to call it concerns, but a lot of the issues I had was, it seems the engineering department, the city engineers seem to have a lot of comments in regards to what they wanted to see, and if I'm hearing Judy correctly, that's not why we're here this evening, to vote on the conditions of the road, and it sounds like that'd be worked out, well, is hopefully worked out, I'm assuming. So that, I think what you said was, what Mr. Curtis is planning to do once he gets in the stage of final plans, I guess the city departments would be a little bit more active with him as far as what's going to be approved or not approved, which has nothing to do with this board, correct?
Right, so there will be a final plan approved by the engineering department. And there will be an A&R plan also.
Yep, okay. So we don't need to condition anything like that, correct? We don't need to condition anything like that. It's kind of like getting a driveway permit. It's going to happen anyways.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. All right. Now, the home design, I know Mr. Curtis gave, we don't have to entertain that either. That's going to be, does that have to be approved by DPD, the final home design? Because we were never given anything. Again, it doesn't sound like we were entertaining construction of the home, or even where it's sitting on the property.
I mean, that's up to the board if they wanted to condition that, but
No, I don't think it's
No,
going to be.
I mean,
going
my
to be
plan,
warranted.
eventually, when I get to that point where I have house plans, they're all going to fall within the parameters of what's required, you know, for height, for size. I'm not doing anything extraordinary that's going to be too high or, You know, I have a lot of open space. I have a large lot with a lot of open space, so I don't think there's going to be any issue there. But again, I think that's a building department issue. Once I bring the plans and final footprint of where the house will sit, which is pretty much what you see on the plan here, but it's not etched in stone yet. And I'll be discussing that with them and also coming to a final conclusion.
So just two last comments. First comment is the woman that showed up and made her comments. Just so you know, ma'am, this board cannot entertain some of the concerns you had. I just want to publicly let you know that. And the second thing, so if we look at the variance, Mr. Curtis, to me, I think, you know, you mentioned about the shape and size, but, you know, I kind of look at this as a traditional corner lot where we sometimes run into issues with even much smaller lots than your own. So I think that's what actually plays in, and there's a couple of other factors with, you know, paper streets and history of city roads. So I believe, you know, the intention of why you're here for the variance, for the relief, I think you've proven that. I think each of the board members have expressed their concerns. I know we only had one member of the public here speaking in opposition, not necessarily about the frontage itself, but the future. Any other comments by any other board members or any conditions? I don't think there are any conditions. So if nothing else said, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2016-06 for a variance for 111 Rivercliff Road with no conditions.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Chairman Bailey?
Approved.
Member Callahan?
Approved.
Member McCarthy?
Approve.
Paglia?
Approved.
Member Perrin?
Approved.
And Member Peck?
Approve.
Thank
Curtis,
you
you've
very
been
much.
approved. Do you need these back?
I don't need those.
Okay.
You can put those in the file.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
luck.
very much.
Yep, good luck. Okay, next order of business is ZB 2016-7, the petitions of variance. The applicant is Danny Sorin and Sorin Loom at 176 University Ave. And the petitions of variance to allow a proposed restaurant without meeting parking requirements pursuant to section 6.14 of the zoning ordinance. Is petitioner here? Yes, hi, sir.
Petitioner is here.
Yep.
I'm Louis Haskell, representing the petitioners. Both are with me this evening.
Okay, good. So if you could just let the board know why you're here this evening and what your plans are.
Basically, it's to seek a variance to, or a special permit rather, to allow what's a carry-out restaurant to operate at 176 University Avenue, basically without the proper parking for such an establishment.
Okay. So Judy, they're here for a variance, is that correct, as opposed to a special permit, or? I mean, they're here for parking.
I believe it said,
Yeah. So he mentioned special permit. Is it special permit or variance? It's variance
I
on the
believe the letter
agenda.
said, from the city said special permit. Oh, I'm sorry, it is variance. It is a variance. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
In any event, this is a traditional mixed-use neighborhood.
Yep.
So it is a non-conforming building, no matter how you slice it. So this is very much consistent with what's happening in this neighborhood in any event. There are, if you go up and down the street, there are a number of little eateries, mostly of the kind of carry-out nature, and that is the intention here, is that it should be a carry-out. They anticipate that their clientele will be the neighborhood itself. because this is a fairly dense residential area, mostly the university, which is basically right there. And actually, this spot is very attractive to them because there's a bus stop, an LRTA bus stop, more or less right in front. And so the absence of parking, well, certainly we understand why it's an issue. We do not see as a problem for the business or the city because so much of the traffic in the restaurant is going to be pedestrian traffic. It's not the kind of a place that you pack up your family and drive to go and eat. There are plenty of sit-down Asian restaurants in the city of Lowell that people would drive to. In this particular case, meals are not cooked to order, it's a carry-out, so it'd all be pre-prepared food or largely pre-prepared and then heated up, but nothing that would be cooked to order. So here again, even if somebody did drive up, it'd be to drive up, get in, pick up your food, get out. It is, as I say, it's 176 University, so it's up the street a little bit. So in terms of parking during the day, there actually is plenty of on-street parking in that area. As you go down University, it gets much more crowded. But for the people who would be driving in and out, there really would be parking on there. There really would not be much of a burden placed on the neighborhood to the extent that there are people driving in and out at all. We did note that the planning department has suggested that the parking lot that is there be for the business employee only. We have no objection to that. But however, it does create the interesting situation where once you say you don't want customers parking in the parking lot, then you're basically saying if this business can't come in, I can't imagine what business could come in. And so, as I say, we think that this is a business that is particularly unburdensome to the neighborhood. It's only a 1,200 square foot unit, so it's not, it's just not a place that you could seat lots of people, and that is not the plan.
In the, I'm trying to remember if it was in the application or was there a narrative? Yeah. In the narrative, it speaks about, I thought, tables being in there. And that
Two
was
tables. Two
Two?
tables. Right. And the thinking there is, first of all, that there's a bus stop right there. So it becomes a warm, dry place for people waiting for the bus to come and get something to eat. And this would give them a place to eat it rather than standing on the street and doing that. My clients are very concerned about the subject people littering the sidewalk in front of them, and this is part of their way of trying to mitigate that. We've discussed other ways to mitigate that, but there might be somebody, again, it's university students who between classes may want to come in, eat, and leave, but again, it's not. It's intended to be a fast food dining experience, not a casual dining experience. And so we would figure whoever would be coming to the place would be looking to, they're coming because they're looking to get out quickly.
Sure. Yep. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it
Yep.
is definitely a special permit. So it's a special permit for reduction of parking requirements for restaurants in this zoning district.
I thought I'd read special permit, but when I challenged, I saw the word variance.
Yeah. Well, the petitioner's always right, you know that. Yeah, I just wanted to ask because we have it in here as a variance. Okay. All right. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? Favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Yes.
Concerns. My name's Scott Morris. I live at 184 University Ave.
Okay.
In the past, there was an aquarium at that location.
Yep.
It wasn't open all that much, maybe once or twice during the week. We did have some issues with customers parking in front of 184. We also had concerns with deliveries. Sometimes delivery trucks would park and kind of block my driveway or block right in front of the road there. So I guess my question would be, I'm anticipating what you just said was right in front of 176 was just going to be for the employee. So if a customer came up, they would tend to park in front of my residence. So I'd have concerns about that. And also the hours that the establishment would be open. So.
Sorry.
I understand that you probably don't.
No, I mean, as far as the hours of operation, what's the concern there? Which hours
Well,
would
if it's
be
the
of
evening,
concern?
you
Okay,
mentioned during the day, myself and the tenants that live at 186 University Ave are working and
Okay.
not there, but in the evening, we're all
Evening.
there.
Sure.
So
Okay,
parking would be more of an issue at that point.
okay, thank you. Do you want to speak to, ma'am? Yep.
My name is Phyllis Morris, and I'm the owner of the building at 184, 186. And my concerns are the same as my son, who is the resident. I am concerned. I know that I have gone on occasion to visit my son, and that is my building. And I've not been able to park because there are people parking in the front of the building that we own. So that I am concerned about the parking situation, and I just wanted to state that.
Is there residential parking in front of your building?
There is, and there is a sign there, but it's
Yep.
not even regarded.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, and there was a business there, as my son said, and the people did park there to go in, even though it was a quick 10, 15 minutes that they would go in, they would take up the parking in front of our residence.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the change in the building from what it was previously to the improvements that you've made, and you've done a great job with renovating the exterior. It looks really terrific. The restaurant that you plan to put in is going to be somewhat of a fast food. Is that like a sandwich-oriented kind of facility, or do you know what kind of food?
Well, it'd be Asian cuisine. So
Asian
it'd be,
cuisine, okay.
Fried rice, beef sticks, chicken wings, things like that.
Sure.
And all of it, as I say, pre-prepared.
Do you have an idea of how you're going to be handling the trash? Do you have a dumpster that's going to be on site, or do you have an idea of what you're going to do there?
A dumpster would go in the back. If the back is allowed for customer parking, or if the city wants it to be used for customer parking, it'd go in the back all the way, to the far corner, away from the driveway, to be as out of sight as possible to the customers. If the city puts a restriction on that customers should not park back there, then we'll talk to the landlord about moving it a little bit closer to the driveway and to the back door.
I'm looking at the site plan that you submitted, and it doesn't seem to have a lot of maneuverability space for those. Is it 3 parking spaces or 4 in the rear? Is it-
There are 3 legal parking spaces.
legal, okay.
If it becomes employees only, then you could stick 4 or 5 back there, actually. But
So the suggestion is that it would be in that spot closest to the building, would be where you would be proposing
it'd be close to the building, yes.
Okay.
That'd be the desired location.
In looking at this, one thought that I'd like to make that as a condition if we were to go forward with this, that you'd be working with DPD to develop the dumpster location with the proper screening required. Okay.
That would be fine.
Is the restaurant going to be handicap accessible? I noticed that we had one step up before, and I don't see quite where you have accessibility being addressed.
Yeah, no, after the landlord's renovation, right, there is that step up, so in its current configuration, it's not accessible.
Okay, so there's no plan to modify that at the moment?
There's no plan to do that, no.
Okay. All right, and then you mentioned that there's 2 tables, and so the idea is that you have a dining room for roughly 8 to 10 people? Is that the
Oh,
intent?
no, there's smaller tables, and again, we really would not anticipate families coming in. That just isn't the idea. It's mostly a student, we would expect it to be mostly a student establishment, hoping, of course, to draw from the neighborhood itself, as opposed to, as I say, it's just not a casual dining experience that we anticipate. It's a fast food place.
Oh, that's wonderful, because you don't have parking for much more than that, so I'm glad
Yes.
to hear that. Hours of operation, what's the expectation
It would
there?
be, we'd anticipate that most of business would be lunchtime, early afternoon. When the school empties, we don't anticipate that they'd be doing very well. So closing would be sometime in the 5 to 7 range, depending upon how business is going. There is no expectation of being open at night, beyond the dinner time, basically.
Okay, so we could make that a condition that the hours of operation would be from 8 in the morning till 7 PM in the evening?
That would be fine.
Okay, very good. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to refer to the special comments indicated as it relates to signage. Do you have any anticipated signage coming before us? Standalone, windows, anything of that nature?
They'd certainly be putting up a sign. I don't know if it's anything that would require
Illumination, any illuminated signs?
illumination. I don't think so. A lit up sign? I don't think so.
No.
No, just a
Okay.
sign.
Just a regular sandwich board sign?
Right.
Okay. The only question I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Sorry, Gary. Sean?
Thank you. I guess a couple questions I have. First of all, how many employees are you anticipating working at any given time?
It'd be the two proprietors. They may get some help from family.
Okay. So as far as vehicles are concerned, and would be, I mean, we have 3 spaces in the back that,
Right. Actually, she lives around the corner.
Okay.
And anticipates actually walking to work, even through blizzard, she promises me.
Okay.
And, but right, the idea of everybody, of all employees parking in the back is not a problem if that's the way the city wants it to go.
also, as far as supply delivery to that instance, I mean, what do you anticipate going, like hours as far as going that, if you can speak to?
Well, they would be coming during the day, obviously, that the delivery trucks come
But,
when they
I mean, you
come.
shouldn't anticipate any, like, huge.
No,
you know,
it's
truck.
again, it's a 1,200 square foot
Yeah, I understand. I'm just trying to.
unit, and
We have some
we're
concerns.
hoping to have deliveries coming all the time, but don't anticipate it, no.
I understand, this is mostly a foot traffic thing, but we obviously have some concerns about parking from the abutters that want to try to alleviate that as much as possible.
We understand. And,
That is one of the things I was concerned about. But, and also, I was curious about the hours of operation, but if you can conditioning that, that would be good too. So I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The spots that are in the back, are those for the tenants of the apartments that are above the commercial space?
2 spots would be for the tenants, yes.
Okay. So we would really, if we were going to condition the third spot, it would only be 1 spot that we could designate as an employee spot.
There's only 1 legal spot, right? I mean, if all the right parameters, but once you say it's not customer parking, it's easy to get cars back there.
Yeah, I mean, well, if I was a tenant in that building, I wouldn't want to come home at lunchtime and have a customer parked out back there. So If it just remains as tenant parking, you think that would be an issue, or?
Well, it's anticipated that the tenants will have their parking back there, yes.
Right, and there's only 3 spaces, so.
Correct.
Okay. The issue of parking, I agree with you, certainly on University Ave, but really throughout the city, those green signs are kind of routinely ignored. I'm sure we've all even parked in front of someone's space around the city if we were visiting a friend or a neighbor. It's just kind of the nature in certain neighborhoods of that. So I would hope that, I think it seems like these folks will be very attentive owners and operators of the business, and I would hope that if it was becoming an issue, that you would be able to talk to them directly and have them somehow just try to explain to customers that they can't park in front of private property. And I do think, as you've stated, I mean, that whole stretch, and this board, just since I've been on it, we've approved we approved the Tacos Lupita shop that just went in. I think Egg Roll Cafe is down there and doing well. There's the Supas, so it sounds like those businesses thrive, like you said, mostly on foot traffic. So, but again, the parking issue, I mean, we can't. It's something where you can call for enforcement if something's parked there all day and it's a resident-only sign. But, I mean, unfortunately, it happens everywhere, so. So I think all my other questions were answered as far as the dumpster and signage. So that's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Van?
I think this kind of business in this neighborhood is actually a good addition to that street. There's a few other businesses in the area already that cater to the kind of the college community and to the neighborhood. I know, I guess parking is concerned, but they anticipated more foot traffic, and overall I think they're big good neighbors to the neighborhood. So I think this is something that we can support, and I think this, hopefully they do well. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Van. Do you have a I know in the paperwork here it looked like something like a lease, but obviously it's not an official lease. Is there a documented lease that's been signed?
There is not. It would be, if this is approved, they will sign the lease. That space has been vacant, as I understand it, for quite a while, so the landlord is certainly anxious to have them signed.
Yeah. Okay, and I know Dennis asked about the parking in back, so there's 3 parking spots in back, correct?
Correct.
Which are all for the unit number 1, or not?
No, the residential tenants would have access to them as well.
So for the business, there's only
Officially
really
one spot,
right?
correct.
Okay. Which I don't know how these potential new business employees are walking or parking, but they would probably be parking back there, correct?
Correct.
Is there for this address, is there parking in front of the building, permitted parking?
Parking in front. Yeah, the parking in front is for this, is permitted, yes.
Well, is it residential sticker parking, or?
No, I believe it's permitted. It is permitted parking. I mean, allowed parking, public, because it is a commercial space in there.
Okay.
Pre-existing commercial space.
So is that, do you know anything about that, Judy? If it's commercial in front?
When I was there today, and I did see the green residential signs on other properties, so, and I saw this had just been renovated, and I did not see a residential sign for this particular building. So I mean, I parked there this morning when I went out to look at it. I just assumed that, without that sign, that it's, parking is allowed.
Yeah, that was.
Okay, yeah, for one spot. I mean, I obviously, as Mike stated, we've had a few different petitions on that street, and I mean, if you're not a resident, where do you park? I know there used to be, is there still a municipal parking lot off one of those streets? But it's, I don't even know if it's still there, but, I mean, if we looked at a lot of those small businesses on that street and it was only residential, you wouldn't have any businesses, I guess. I don't know, where are people gonna park?
Right.
But I think the foot traffic is probably the big business that's being looked at, whether it's college students or even people who live in a neighborhood, I would assume. So Judy, you mentioned there's going to be 2 tables, correct?
Yes.
Right. So the narrative says 5, you say 2. If they have 2 tables, how many, what are the parking requirements that they would have to meet anyways?
Well, this would be, it would be considered a takeout restaurant.
Correct.
And a takeout restaurant is 1 space for 300
Square feet,
square
right.
feet.
So they need like 4.
So
right?
they would need 4, however, under this provision, 6152.
Yep.
It can be reduced to 1 space per 5. So this particular provision of the zoning says you can, that the board can reduce it to 1 per 500 in this district and in other districts for restaurants.
Yeah, which I think is more reasonable for the place of business. So, I mean, that'd be like 2 and whatever, right? Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I myself don't see that as, I don't see how the business could not be there, because I think it's going to be a takeout. I can't see people going in and sitting around in there, because obviously, I don't think there's going to be too much space to be sitting around to begin with, correct?
Correct. I mean, again, the whole building, the whole space is 1,200 square feet. You still have
Yep.
to cook and
Yep.
everything else there.
So if there's a commercial, we'll call it space in front, then I understand these people who live next door obviously have been there. I'm sure they're used to it. I hate to say that, but it would probably be nice if maybe the business could put up a sign or just something that, for people in the future that might come in that are driving, just to assist them. And the hours of operation, we talking 5 days a week, 7 days a week? Is it like, let's start the business and see how it works?
It really is a let's start the business and see how it works. I mean, these are the proprietors, the employees, the cooks, the cleaners,
Yep.
so, you know, it's nice to have the flexibility of being open in the morning, in the early evening, on Saturday, on Sunday, as a matter of physical stamina.
Well,
They're
I
going to
think-
close somewhere along the line.
If we're going to have some conditions here, which I know we are, the hours of operation, I'll have it for 7 days, 8 to 7.
That would be.
But
that'd
I
be great.
know one of the things I'm going to condition is that we have we do this with other petitions, have a 6-month administrative review. That way we can find out, are we having any issues there? If these people here are having issues with parking, if they start complaining enough that there's issues, we can revisit the petition and find out what are the issues. So as long as you're okay with that. Now, the handicap access, I know Dennis asked about it, Judy. Just so I understand, how is that handled for like receiving the permit, whether it's the renovation permit or even a business going in? Is it a requirement of this petitioner because they're here for parking
Right,
efficiency?
so yeah, the handicap requirement really gets looked at when you're doing the building permit.
This is something that should have been when the gentleman did his renovation work.
Did the renovation,
I'm
right.
assuming he pulled a permit.
Yes, as far as I know, he did, yes,
Yeah, it's no reflection, I'm just saying, I'm assuming. You know,
yes.
they're not the building owner.
Right.
So we necessarily don't need that as a condition, do we?
No,
I don't believe so. correct?
No.
Yep, okay. Not that I want to disagree with my good friend here, you know, okay. All right, so 2 tables, 3, valid, the lease, I want in there because I didn't see anything, but I kind of understand if it came before us and you were denied, then what's the sense of having the lease? Okay, before I make the final decision, anybody else have anything else they want to comment on or add for a condition? Yes, sir.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add the condition that the applicant work with DPD to provide a adequate trash dumpster location with the proper screening.
Yep. Okay. All right. Any other comments? So, again, if we go back to why you're here, so if it's for a special permit for parking requirements, and so the parking requirements were, I'll say 2+. Again, if I look at this one's a little bit different as far as the special permit, because we're really talking about, in fact, if we look at the criteria for the special permit, one of those includes the parking or loading. Oh, that was my last thing. So they had asked, the abutters had asked about deliveries. What was the answer on, what's the expectation of how would deliveries be made and what fashion? Any idea? Do they have any idea what they're doing as far as deliveries?
Not really. I mean, we'd anticipate they'd come through the front door.
Okay. So is there any way to access it from the rear, or do they have to come in front?
There is a rear door. It would require the delivery vehicles to come up that little driveway on the side.
Okay. Well, you have the space in front, so I guess if that's occupied, that's like people trying to park, I guess,
Then they probably would
I'm
try
sure
to
there's double
negotiate that
parking.
driveway.
That's not, again, for us to enforce, but I wanted to come back to the delivery, because I didn't think I heard exactly how deliveries were going to be done, or what their expectation was.
There is a side door towards the back of the building. So that's correct. I mean, if that parking space in front were occupied, there is an alternative way to make a delivery. Delivery drivers being delivery drivers,
Yep.
we expect them to park in the front and,
Yeah.
and take
Well, I
the
guess I would just
easiest way in.
suggest the best that they can do as far as the deliveries, so they're not parking in their spots, and you know what I'm
Correct.
saying?
Correct.
Yes. They took the time to come down here and obviously have a history, so I want to make sure that they are somewhat satisfied with the operation.
Right. And we'll make a point of speaking with any delivery driver who takes an alternative,
Yep.
an alternative parking position.
All right, well, I think, based on, it's good to see another new business come in. The building's been, from what I can see, has been remodeled. It's a nice looking building. So it'd probably be good if we could get a small business in there. Hopefully they're successful. Hopefully they're good neighbors. And I believe, you'll meet the criteria for, again, you're here for the parking. So we have a list of conditions. Did you,
Yes, I
did
did.
you catch which ones we're talking about for conditions, or do you want us to repeat
The
them?
dumpster,
Yep.
the hours of operation. And actually, you didn't say whether or not you wanted to
The
restrict
lease.
parking in the back.
One of
And
the
I'll
lease.
give you a lease.
Yep. The 6-month administrative review. And I think you mentioned the screening, right, for the dumpster?
Yes.
I think that was it, right? Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2016-07 for a variance for 176 University Ave with the following conditions. Number one, that the hours of operation be from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. Number two, that the applicant be, that we have a 6-month administrative review to address parking concerns. Number three, that the applicant work with EPD to provide adequate space for trash dumpster and proper screening. Number four, that the applicant provide dining space for 2 tables. And number five, that a lease be provided.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second motion.
Could I have a roll call?
Could I just ask a question? What were the last two? I didn't catch the last two conditions.
Number four was that dining space be for 2 tables? It's listed as 5 tables. And number 5 is that a lease be provided, a lease.
Okay,
Okay, could I have a second?
yes, we have a second.
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Chairman Bailey,
Approve with conditions.
Member Callahan,
Approve with conditions.
Member McCarthy,
Approve with conditions.
Member Paglia,
Approved with conditions.
Member Perrin,
Approve with conditions.
and Member Peck.
Approve with conditions.
Okay, you've been approved with conditions. I wish your clients best of luck. Good luck, ladies.
Thank you all.
Yep, have a good evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Okay, our next matter before us, before I go any further, I'm going to make a public disclosure that I'm going to recuse myself from this petition in order to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, potential conflict, so that there's no detriment to either party. So I will turn it over to the Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the matter before us, ZB 2016-08, petition type special permit and variance, the applicant Jeff and Lynn Millman, property located at 94 Buttman Road. Applicable zoning bylaws, the petition, the proposal is to reconstruct an existing garage without meeting the height requirements. The proposed project is located in the suburban single-family zoning district and requires a special permit and variance approval under section 4.5.3 and section 4.4.1.2 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. There's a petitioner here tonight. Good evening, sir. If you could sign and state your name and address, please.
Jeff Millman at 94 Buttman Road. My wife is here as well.
Okay, thank you. You can move forward and tell us a little bit about your project, please.
So I'll try to keep it brief and to the point. We moved into Lowell on July 31st, and generally happy to be here. My wife is an artist. She paints in oil. She does landscape. She does portrait. She does still life. She does figurative painting. Very accomplished, award-winning. We thought Lowell would be a great place to relocate. We were only coming from North Andover, so it wasn't like we weren't familiar with Lowell. We looked at a number of different houses across different towns in the Merrimack Valley and elsewhere. One of the key criteria was we wanted to be able to get a working studio for Lynn. That's what we were looking at. We saw the property on 94 Buttman Road. We looked at the garage, and Lynn has very specific requirements. One being that she needs north light, north-facing windows that go high. That's the most constant light throughout the day. And the other one is an adequate square footage to be able to get far enough back from a subject where if she is going to be painting a portrait of somebody life-size, she can get far enough back that she can actually do it. So we looked at the garage on 94 Buttman. We actually made a few inquiries to city planning to figure out whether we could build a studio above the garage, and we were given the impression that we could. We started actually putting some plans together. I've got a brother who's an architect who, gratis, he's down in North Carolina, would put some plans together so we could try to visualize it with the intention of talking to some contractors and realistically maybe getting started on some construction in the spring. Through that process, one of the contractors talked to a building inspector, and we were told that where we originally thought we could go up 2.5 stories, we were really limited to 16 feet median roof height. So really what we're here to ask for is the ability to go higher than the 16-foot median roof height to be able to meet the functional requirements that I just described. One of the other goals here is that, quite frankly, in my opinion, the garage is an eyesore. It's fairly ugly in a neighborhood where things are generally nicer looking. And we wanted to bring the building more consistent with the architecture of the house, the architecture of the neighborhood, and just have something that looks like it wasn't a shed thrown together. We did, once we realized that we needed to come before the board to even anticipate being able to do the project, we started to accelerate it just to be able to get in front of you tonight instead of having it go further. We did go visit our neighbors on the 23rd of January and made sure we informed them and wanted to make sure that they could come to us if they had any questions or concerns. And I don't, again, we want to be good neighbors. We just moved in. There were none immediately, although I do know my neighbor Ted, who lives behind us, came to us last night, expressed some concerns, and I have yet to be able to really address those. So we had invested a lot in this process, figured we would come in here and make our appeal and listen to both sides of things, and we're hoping we can actually accomplish this, because that was our intent when purchasing the house, and we certainly believed we could do it. I believe I covered more or less the points I wanted to cover. If you have questions, I think you'll get back to me on that.
Okay, thank you. I do have one. Are you in receipt of the comments from the City of Lowell dated the 17th?
Yes, I have seen them. Is there a specific one you'd like me to address?
I'm just inquiring to make sure you did receive a copy of them. So if any of the board members have any specific questions related to that, you could.
Yeah, so I will also mention it's in the existing footprint of the existing garage, which wouldn't meet, if you were to build it today, wouldn't have the setbacks. But we would build it in the existing footprint. It would be a finished space above the garage, heating, cooling, no plumbing. Just basically be able to insulate it so it's comfortable to work year-round.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to open up to the public hearing. I reserve your right to answer questions for the board in a minute. At this time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? You may come to the podium, state your name and sign in, sir.
Hi, I'm Ted Zimzak. I live on 21 Ridge Road, which is the house directly behind 94 Butman. And the main thing that I oppose is the size and also blocking all the sun for the winter time in the whole back of the house, and also it affects other neighbors. Now, I do have some photos, and I do have the plans expanded on sheets of paper, if that would be helpful. And I have them here. If that would be helpful, I'll certainly pass them out.
Certainly, well, you can bring them
Thank you.
forward, sir.
I would like just to add that the first photo, which we're going to stay with, is the front of the garage. And this is taken from the street, and this is approximately 11 feet long, so we'll say almost 27 feet. The second photo is, I was just passing by, excuse me, and I took this photo, which was also the front, and this was taken a couple days ago as I was just driving by. Now, the thing I'd like to stress is that on the prints and in some memos in City Hall, it was listed that the height was 23 feet and 9 inches. The 23 feet and 9 inches is in reference to the middle of the slope. The total height is 29 feet and 2 inches from ground up. So at the present time, from prints that are on the internet, on the website, the height of the front of the garage is 10 feet and 1 inch, but it doesn't have the roof, so we'll make it 11 feet because it adds on. So the front, in comparison to 29 feet and 2 inches, will be 2.65 times the height of the present front of the garage now. The garage in the back faces me, and this is 7 feet and 2 inches, and it only has it up to the top of the, right before the top of the roof. So if you count it as 8 feet, the back of the garage that I'll be looking at will be 3.65 times, or 365%, the size of the garage that I'm looking at now, because the height is over 29 feet. And then I just know this doesn't concern the prints or anything, but since my house is lower, in other words, the land slopes up in a vertical and a horizontal way, then I'll be looking up higher from like maybe 2 to 3 feet at least. Now, the square footage of the garage per print now is 572 square feet. The proposed square footage for the art studio will now be 600, that's added on, 653 square feet. And I'd like to add also that this is 3.5 feet from my backyard or from my property line. Most likely it's been grandfathered in, so therefore, you know, it stands there. But to increase the size of it that much that it would not pass a present ordinance now, which I'm not sure what it is, will probably not be acceptable if you built a building like this from scratch. Now, I'll be looking at a building that is 27 feet wide, and then with an added roof on the top, which is facing me, the whole slope with the shingles, will be at 29 feet because it adds on. And once this building is up, it's up there for the rest of my life, obviously. Now, the other thing I'd like to mention is also the blockage of the sun. The back of my house faces west, so therefore the sun sets in the west. And in the afternoon, it's like between November and February, the sun goes behind 102 Buttman Road and then sinks behind 94 Buttman Road. So the only sun that I really see is the sun that is over the garage, because then it disappears behind 94 Buttman. Now, as you can see from the photos, 2, 3, 4, whatever, I just want to make sure everyone sees. Then if this is increased, then the sun is completely eliminated. It's not there. And if it's only increased even marginally, then it's also blocked and also eliminated. Now, besides blocking the sun through the whole winter, it also will reduce the sun in the spring and the fall. Now, today the sunset is at 5:25. November 23rd is at 4:16. That means it's an hour and 10 minutes earlier, and this difference in height is really large. On January 23rd, it's 4:46, so it starts going up. Now, I'm retired now, and I spend most of the time at home in the back of the house because of the sunlight. As you can see from picture number 5, I have the back door open, and that's from the inside of my kitchen. So it shows where the light is coming in. And the same thing with number 6. So that is from inside the actual house, from the back door that's in my kitchen. Number 7 shows the light that I'm getting between the two houses over the garage. Number 8 shows how the sun is starting to move behind 94 Buttman Road. And you can see it completely just disappears. Now, these were taken at the end, right at the end of January, the beginning of this month, so that means that if the sun is already higher than it would have been, say, in the end of November, December, and so forth. Number 9 is a shot from my bedroom window in the back, and what you're looking at is blinds, so you'll just know it's from the back. And number 10 shows the time also. Number 11, excuse me, dry mouth. Number 11 shows that this was taken on February the 7th, and the sun is shining over the roof of my house. Now, this sun is between the two houses over the garage. So this doesn't only affect me, but it also affects the neighbors across the street. Number 12 is, is 20 Ridge Road. That's Nancy's and Ray's home. And you can see how it lights up the house, and so that means that this sunlight will also be eliminated. Number 13 shows how the sun is going down, and you see the shadow of my roof now, and there's a time, is 4:05. Number 14 is the house that is next to Ray and Nancy, and that's 26 Ridge Road with Deb and Chris. And of course, I've asked them if I could show these, to save time versus them saying this. Now, so this will affect a number of people. You can see, I'll stop there, but the point I'm just making is that I grew up in Centerville, and I lived with houses 5 feet away from me, the whole side of the house right just next to me. And what I was looking for when I was buying a house, and of course, and houses all around in Centerville, when I was looking for a house, I wanted one with sunshine and sunlight coming in, because it just makes me feel better, I can think better, I could do more. And so when I saw this house, the reason I bought this house is for the sunshine. Now, if there was something there already, that's fine. And my house has not been changed, like modified in any way. And of course, the sun goes through the bedroom, the bathroom, and this is in the back, the back door, the kitchen, and the dining room that was shown on, I think, number 7. So if this structure is built as it is, it's going to eliminate all the sun for about 3 months. And it's going to block out all the sun in the back of my house, which really will affect me because I'm retired and I do all my work. In fact, I have 4 folding tables in the kitchen where I do taxes, bills, I read, I have a TV in there. So basically, I live in that part of the house for most of the day, in the evening, and even at night. So, and this will block out also the sun of my neighbors who live across the street. And as I mentioned, I'm retired, so I spend so much time there. Now, after living here, and I've lived in this house for 36 years, I really enjoy and I feel that I'm blessed after living in Centerville with the sunlight. Now, after my mom passed away, my father's still living in Centerville, got first dementia, then Alzheimer's, so I moved in and I lived with him. And then when I came back to Ridge Road, I felt, wow, I feel so much better. This is really great. So I just felt that after living here for 36 years, and it's unfortunate because it's not fair to anyone, that I have this just taken away, and I don't enjoy it. And I also have, it affects me health-wise and so forth. So anyway, so I think this will impact it will, my health, my well-being, my quality of life, and my life. Now, I just want to add something else, that once this structure is built, it's there. That house had a pool, had an indoor pool and a structure built in the back, and I just never opposed that. This is the first time I'm opposing anything. And because when that was built, it was not it wasn't that high as the house, and it didn't block any sunlight at all. So I just want people to enjoy themselves, and there's no problem. Now, since 1994, this house has been sold 5 times now, and I don't know why. So basically, like what I'm saying is that this is a house that'll have a 653 square foot art studio in the back. I'm sorry, on top of the garage. It will block the sun, and I really don't think it is. I don't think it's a building that should be in an SSF or suburban single-family zoned district. I could go on, but I'll stop it there. Now, the other thing that I do have is I do have a petition that's been signed by 72 people that live just locally, almost all of them locally in the area, including 16 homes on Buttman Road itself. And I did not go beyond, because of time limits and so forth, I did not go beyond Hovey Street. So it's all from Hovey Street down. And I'd like to just pass this in.
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you.
And then I would just like to point out on photos 15 and 16. On 15, you can see the side of the garage, and that faces north itself. Just as in 16, the whole side of the house faces north, which is the side that Lynn, prefers to paint and to have the shadows of the details and so forth. So what I'm asking is that, that this special permit and this variance be opposed, and I will certainly work with Lynn and with Jeff to find an alternative solution which would not block out the sun and is acceptable to the both of us. I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
There's one other thing, I'm sorry, that I'd like to just point out, is that this is off the internet, which I did not understand, and I just found it now. And this was the Land Use Board in Maine application. And this is how the pages just came out. It's in the packet there. And I see it's been checked off in various locations, but also when you look at the last page, which is, I don't know how it's numbered, but it says authorization must be signed by the owner of the property, and there's nothing signed there, which I'm just pointing out. I don't know what that means or anything, but I'm just pointing it out, because I had questioned that when I saw that the last couple of days. Anyway, I really thank you for your time and your patience for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'll just sign in, sorry. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Oh, and since I'm on TV, I would like to thank the people when I was just going around for this petition that were so friendly, I should say the neighbors, and let me into their houses and not only sign this, but then we had long conversations also. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
I wish to be heard, please.
Please state your name.
My name is Debbie Freitas. I'm joined today by Christina Freitas. She sits behind me. Together, we own the property at 26 Ridge Road in Lowell. As my neighbor's photos demonstrated, specifically, I believe he referenced photograph number 14, the garage at issue is visible directly from my living room window and would cast a large shadow across the front of my home as the sun sets each day. Our home is a single-family, single-story ranch, which fits into the neighborhood, and we bought it because we enjoyed its character. We purchased the home in July of 2015, and the existing garage, at the time we purchased it, does not block the sun substantially, and that was an important consideration. The proposed change is a substantial one for us, even though we do not directly abut the property. and therefore this proposal has larger implications. We were not visited by these neighbors, but we did receive notice of this hearing via mail. In picture 14, we are the gray house with the red shutters. Now, the ordinances that these neighbors are looking to obtain a variance and special permit, those ordinances were put in place to protect the character of our neighborhood at large and protecting access to shared resources, like solar access for the entire community, not just one resident. Here, the existing garage, it still has utility as its intended purpose, a garage on a single-family lot. It continues to function as it was designed, even if it's not an ideal art studio. That's not how it was zoned. The increase would be visible from more than just one street, and it would decrease solar access and light to more than just one home. Its proximity to the lot line changes the horizon line to our entire neighborhood, not just one neighbor's backyard. The proposed change is not measurable in inches. It is a request to nearly double the height that's originally requested. And for those reasons, I, as well as Christina, do object.
Thank you. Any others wishing to speak in opposition?
James Raris, 40 Ridge Road. I'm not in opposition of the construction of the new garage. My issues are actually what with the height of the building and the issues brought forth as the people before me brought up. So that's my main concern.
Any others wishing to speak in opposition?
My name's Kathy Sullivan. I live on Parkview Avenue, which in this building itself wouldn't affect me, but I grew up next door at 82 Buttman Road. So when you look at a picture, the house that's just next to it is where I was. The garage has always been ugly, as long as I've been alive. I will say that much. But I had thought about it, I heard about this just very recently, and I started thinking about it, and I thought about how high it would be. Not just that, because it sits up on the property. So on my way today, I took a ride down Glenwood Street, and I looked up, and I went, it's going to look like, I don't care how lovely it is, it's going to look like an apartment on top of a garage. I think it's good. I mean, I just pulled 2 pictures off the web. I just think it's going to look very out of character with the neighborhood. I don't care what the design is. And having lived there, looked at the property, used to ski the little hill. So I just looked at it, and I went, the trees will be cut back, so that's going to, change the whole look. So I can give you what I pulled off the web. It's not fancy. But when I did, I went, it's going to look huge. There's nothing in the neighborhood even close to that size. So these aren't anything fancy. But it was just a real quick build up because of the way it is.
Any others wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Sir?
Good evening. My name is John Gear. I live at 39 Elcott Street in the Belvedere section of Lowell. I'm also the president of the Belvedere Neighborhood Association. I have some concerns about this project as has been discussed regarding height and impact in the neighborhood. I'm also here tonight representing Anne Marie Page, who's the president of the Citywide Neighborhood Council, and I have a letter from her. She couldn't be here tonight that I'd like to read.
Certainly.
Regarding 94 Buttman Road, Lowell, I've requested this letter be read at the February 22nd zoning board meeting as I'm unable to attend. On behalf of the citywide neighborhood council, we wish to express our concern on this project. We have been contacted by some concerned neighbors as to the height of this project being constructed above a garage. In the last few years, many zoning rules and regulations have been reviewed and revised, all in the interest of protecting the character of neighborhoods. Neighbors and abutters have been notified of this project to reconstruct a garage and then add a room above. This proposal does not meet with height requirements. It's a suburban, single-family zone, and it's not something you want to start messing with. I believe the neighbors have signed a petition to notify the zoning board that this project does not work well in their neighborhood, and the neighbors depend on you, the zoning board, to protect the character of their neighborhood, and certainly not to interfere with the sunlight that neighbors enjoy now that could be blocked out by some of this construction. Respectfully submitted, Anne Marie Page. I have a copy for you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Any others wishing to speak in opposition at this time? In opposition? In opposition? That portion of the public hearing is now closed. I'd like to open it up to the board members for comment. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I don't have a concern with the addition being built, but and just going on the plans and doing a site visit this weekend, it is the height that sort of concerns me because it's essentially, at least the way I have it figured, the same height as the house. And I know that there was an issue with the planning office initially where there was a misinterpretation of some of the rules, and so we're trying to rectify that by having you come before this board. But it seems like it's not just a second-story addition, but more like 2.5 stories. So I'm wondering if there's some way that can be reworked again.
I certainly don't think it's the height of the house, but I don't know the exact measurement of the house. But yeah, I mean, first let me say I'm fairly taken aback because we did try to make sure that our immediate neighbors knew and opened ourselves up to have people come talk to us. I didn't expect to really get waylaid, in this meeting. We would have been certainly open to talking to people and working with it. So to answer your question, we've got some functional requirements in terms of the height we need. Does it need to go up to that height? Probably not. We can probably work down from there. And I'm certainly willing to do that. But to a point where if we can't get a second floor with some reasonably high windows on the north side, which can be at the peak of the gabled roof, so it's not, it doesn't have to, it's not going to be on one of the, on one of the sides of the gables on the peak. If we can't get it up to a functioning height, it's not worth doing. So, but yes, there's some compromise that's in there, but it's not, conforming to the existing height that we have now, or even to we couldn't do it in a 16-foot median.
Just to comment on what you said, the issue, as long as you sent out, you got the appropriate abutters list from the city and the legal notice was sent out, that's all that you're required to do. And
no, I understand.
Yeah,
but
so it's not, you don't have to go door, you
no,
don't,
I understand.
have to go door to door, yeah.
We're new, we wanted to be good neighbors, we wanted, right? I mean, this is, to be honest, this is not how we wanted to meet our neighbors. So, I mean, we went to our immediate abutting neighbors and had a conversation and would have liked to have had some feedback before this meeting. But be that as it may, we are where we are. So I'm happy to answer any other questions, and I want to see if there's something we can work out that would be feasible. Is it appropriate for me to respond to some of what I heard, or no?
You can certainly comment to a degree to the board.
Yeah, character of the neighborhood. I mean, there are, we've got a bunch of photos of going around looking at fairly large garage structures in the neighborhood. There are plenty of them. Should I?
We have them submitted. Ma'am,
Yeah,
you gotta speak
so,
to
I mean, basically, when we looked at the neighborhood, this seemed to be a structure that was, what we thought was consistent with the neighborhood. Absent the, the concerns about the height and the sunlight. Certainly feel that it's not out of place in the neighborhood, examples of garages. Yeah. So the other point about the sun, and again, I'm not suggesting that if we make the building larger, it's not going to affect the sun. It certainly will, but there are a lot of trees back there as well, and in the winter, yeah, maybe you can get some sun through them. When the leaves are on them, probably not. Again, not trying to ruin everybody. I'm not trying to ruin everybody's sunlight. That shows actually the sun coming over the garage. The house is on the. That's from Ridge Road. That's from Ridge Road, coming over the garage. So similar picture to what Ted showed. That's the house. The garage would never get up to the peak of the house.
Mike, you have floor to continue.
As long as the petitioner is through responding to comments, and then I can. Do you want to respond to any more comments from this?
I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I mean, it's hard to visualize just based on the plans, but I would like, my recommendation would be, and again, I'm not speaking for the board, but just for myself, usually in a situation like this, a petitioner will try to go back and rework their plans if possible to try to come up with something that's a little more palatable for the neighborhood. So, I mean, I'll honestly say I'm not, an hour or two of sunlight a day, I think is a sort of a minor issue. I think it's just the height of the building itself. I realize the footprint isn't being enlarged. There are a lot of, that was a point I was going to make, that there are a lot of older homes in that neighborhood that have barns that have been converted into apartments or condos or storage space. So this wouldn't be your property wouldn't be unique in that regard. So, but the height on the plans as they were given to us seems to me like something that could be shortened. So, if it still meets obviously the function that you want out of it. So that's just a suggestion. In this case, you would consider requesting a continuance to try to work. Is that correct, Judy? And even at this point, so again, we'll hear from other members. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Michael. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I first of all, I want to say thank you for all the neighbors who came out to speak. I know it's not always an easy thing to come and speak in these forums, and trust me, it doesn't get easier when you're behind the table either. But me personally, the garage sounds like a nice idea, but like some of the comments we heard, the height is the issue. And Mr. Millman, I'm glad to hear that you're open to compromise and working with your neighbors to either scale down or, make the project maybe a little more appealing to all the neighbors. I like the idea of continuing this hearing, so you can sit down with your neighbors and maybe think of a more maybe ideal plan that works for everyone involved. you know, those are the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a few questions, but I do think that you chose the right access for the garage ridge, especially with the idea of having the north light coming in, but it does minimize the effect on that very tight rear yard setback, because you do place the roof pitch on that side, which minimizes the amount of shadow that would be cast on that wall. But I do wonder why you are looking at such a high second level. Just doing the math in my head, if you were to have a 8-foot ceiling height with a large structural beam carrying the floor load, but maybe similar to the carriage house that we saw in one of the images, a knee wall that came up closer to 4 feet, and then a shallower roof pitch, you could accomplish the 16-foot requirement without a variance. It would give you a room that would have a lower ceiling height in it, but if your expectation is to have a 26-foot space that might be closer to 9 foot wide with a 6-foot plus ceiling height, you would basically be able, so I think there's some room to re-examine the spatial requirements and see if you can come closer and minimize. You do have roughly an 18-foot high wall right up against the property line in the back.
Well, the existing garage, right, is the first floor, and the plan drawn now has an 8-foot second floor wall before, and that's the structural wall for the roof.
Right.
So certainly there's some room to bring that down.
That's what I'm saying.
And I'm
That's
definitely
what I'm
willing to look at it, but there's a limit, right, where it just gets to be too low, right, and it won't work. So, I mean, her basic requirements are to get the light the top of the window 12 feet above her floor. Right, it's the light from above.
And I think you can still accomplish that on the majority of the wall. I think you just really have to look at the dimensions, because I think that the criteria of having an 18-foot wall 3.5 feet from your neighbor's property is a little harsh. I think we could possibly do better than that, and I think it would be worth continuing and re-examining that to see if you can come to some middle ground. But it's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the same sentiments of the fellow board members. First, looking at it, I believe that I had some concerns with regards to the height as initially planned, and now hearing from the neighbors and abutters pertaining to their concerns with regards to sunlight, it gives me even more pause at this point right now. And I think I'm glad that you're willing to try to work down the structure a little bit. And I think it's up to you, but I would probably suggest maybe if you want to consider a continuance and maybe try to rework it and maybe even meet with the neighbors and abutters and try to take everything into account and come before us again if you have something more restructured at that point we can look at. I think that may be a good idea, but that's all I have to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Sean. So I guess the overall consensus is the back and forth, the abutters, that the probability would suggest you may need to seek some further advice working with DPD. DPD department is very helpful in these matters. I did hear comment that you are not familiar with the process and the proceedings, and it's an educated process as you move forward. Certainly, I appreciate your thoughts, and this was not your intention on how to meet your neighbors. Certainly, it's not the intention. This is not how we'd like to welcome you to the city. I think, that being said, it may be in your, it's your decision at this point. But before you do make that decision, I just want to read into the record that I am in receipt of a petition in opposition to 94 Buttman Road. that is signed by 72 petitioners in abutment to the petition and property, as well as a letter dated February 22nd, 2016, for Lowell Citywide Neighborhood Council, signed by Anne Marie Page, the president of Lowell Citywide Neighborhood Council. So with that being said, prior for us moving for a motion for a vote, you want to take a minute to address with your wife what you would like to do at this point. We can move forward with a vote tonight, and that will seal your fate, whether you get approved or denied, or you do have the option for a continuance.
Well, not knowing exactly how low I can really get it, it probably makes more sense to spend some time trying to figure that out and get a continuance. We go through exactly the same process again? Is that how it works, or is it expedited somehow? Because
Judy, if you could provide that.
No, you do not have to re-advertise, renotice, fill out any more applications. No, you would just submit, if you do have a new design, you would just submit the new design. And the board does meet twice a month. So depending on, you can request a continuance to the next board meeting or the one after that, which would be, I know Dennis is looking it up.
March 14th is the next one, and then the following is March 28th.
March 14th and March 28th. So you had no need to do any more paperwork. You've done all the paperwork.
So I would think that the most reasonable thing to do is go back and see how low we can get the roof and it still be functional, and come back on March 28th.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, if you would. Yeah, if you can't have direct conversation. Everything. Sir, the public hearing has been closed, so we are going to move forward.
I guess, we would like to work with the people and make sure that
Certainly.
there's some comfort with it. But to be honest, what I do want to understand now is if we go up anything over the 16 feet that we're allowed median roof height, right? That's what we're allowed.
Yep.
If we go anything above that, are you guys just going to automatically oppose it?
Sir, at this point, you need to address the board.
Okay.
And we'll wait, you need
Well,
to
I'm
make.
curious as to the answer to that question.
And that's something that can be worked through DPD.
Okay.
By rule, we can't have you addressing, the public hearing has been closed. You must address through the chair. DPD is, they're a wonderful department, and they'll be very helpful with all your answers and guide you through the process correctly.
My apologies for
No.
deviating from procedure.
It's an educated process of the ruling, so you are, it's my understanding you are requesting a continuance to March 28th,
Yes.
2016?
Yes.
With that, may I have a motion, please?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2016-08 for a special permit and variance for 94 Butman Road to be continued to March 28th.
May I have a second, please?
Second?
Roll call?
Chairman Perrin,
Continue to March 28th, 2016.
Member Callahan,
Continue to March 28th, 2016.
Member McCarthy,
Continue to March 28th.
Member Paglia,
Continue to March 28th.
and Member Peck.
Continue to March 28th.
So you've been approved for a continuance to March 28th. If you be so kind and touch base with DPD, it would be helpful. Thank you for your time. This time, public hearing of the ZBA will be turned over to Chairman Bailey.
Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2016-9, the petition's a special permit. The applicant is Tavern in the Square, Lowell LLC, property located at 900 Chelmsford Street. And the proposal consists of mounting 3 internally illuminated wall signs in the high-rise commercial zoning district. The proposed project requires a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals under Section 6.34 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, Counselor.
Good evening. all of you.
And the floor is yours.
Mr. McCarthy, it's nice seeing you again. And I am representing the moving party, and we are here, hopefully, to have you allow and approve three signs that we hope will be put on the high-rise building and will enable the tavern restaurant to open up. The persons that are here with me tonight are, there's Mr. Quas. Mr. Quas is with the Viewpoint Sign and Awning Company, and he's on my right. And the next person with me is Mr. Renato Valentim, who is the Vice President of Business Development and Construction for Tavern in the Square. I know you've been here a long time this evening, and I promise I will try to be brief. With your respect, may I just want to show you the sign that you've gotten a whole bunch of signs and you've gotten a whole bunch of exhibits from us. We thought that this might be something that might amplify and show better what exactly is going on. This is something that's inside Cross Point, outside where the entrance to the building is, and this is the sign that we're seeking to have approved for the outside and one for the inside of the building. In addition, you'll see other sites and scenes where there's going to be outdoor eating here, and hopefully this is an example of another restaurant that is owned by the chain, and this is what this looks like. The other items that I am going to be presenting, and I hope I do it the right side, is, again, you have this sign, and I believe this should, am I correct? Or did I get it the wrong way? I've got it the right way. And you have pictures of this, and this is basically what the Cross Point looks like. And this is where the entrance will be, and there will be a sign here. You want to show the other one? And the sign that way that will be vertical. Squash is here, and he is the expert on the sign, and if there's any questions that you have with respect to the sign or how it will work, or what will happen, please allow me to have him answer those questions. I also, before coming here this evening, received a very nice email from the Department of Planning and Development from Christine McCall, who indicated that we received comments that were sent to the board by them, and basically the staff said that they indicated they had no issue with the proposal, but there was a question as to how late the sign would be lit. And if I could ask Mr. Quas, could you explain that to them?
The hours?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the signs would be on in the evening until the establishment closes, at which time the signs will go off.
I have a lot of background here, and I'm not going to take your time with respect to it. This tavern is going to be really, we've gone through the development plan for the city of Lowell, and we've gone through all of the items that are sought and to be answered by the applicant. I believe that we have submitted a two-page memorandum indicating where we are and where we stand with respect to compliance with all of the requirements imposed by the zoning bylaw. And it's called the narrative in support of our application and how this application applies to the master plan. And basically, it's our position that the project proposed adheres and promotes the City of Lowell comprehensive master plan in numerous ways. The project will provide employment opportunities to the citizens of Lowell, and by offering high-quality eating and drinking establishment, the project will allow residents of Lowell to obtain the same for affordable prices. I want you to be aware that this is the 8th or 9th restaurant operated by the tavern, and they employ right now 1,000 people. They hope to be opened in Lowell in April, and they are intending to employ close to 150 people. They will be regular trained people based upon the location. The signs are there because it will invite people into the restaurant, which will then invite these people into the City of Lowell. It's going to be a very fine, nice dining restaurant, but not very expensive. And they're very accomplished. There are no environmental problems. The neighborhood is strictly commercial, so there are no residences who I believe will have any problems. We believe that traffic access and safety are not even an issue with respect to this. I also want you to know that there are parking spaces specifically assigned to the restaurant. I think there's 150 of them, in addition to all the other parking in that huge area of the high-rise building. So parking is not going to be a problem. The restaurant will be open probably until 1 o'clock. It'll be open, I think, Saturday and Sunday for brunch. Mr. Perrin, I have a picture here of something from the menu, and I was advised that this might be something that you might find attractive. So I brought that in specifically for you. They hope to open in April. They're going to be in Cross Point Tower. They meet the goals of the comprehensive plan. There is a lease. You've read the lease. They're going to have 8,385 square feet. There's a total amount of 1,228,000 rental square feet available, so they're going to have, I guess, half of 50% of 1% of the lease in the building. They're going to be there for 10 years. They have 2 successive 5-year leases, so they could be here for 20 years. Anyway, they pay high-quality, first-class rent, yes, and they have a first-class restaurant and bar, fine food, takeaway, brunch on Saturday and Sunday at 11 o'clock and 10 o'clock. I've discussed the parking. One nice thing about this is that in their lease, which I'm sure you've all read because it was 140 pages, you'll note something unusual, that every 5 years the tenant is required to refurbish the property. So therefore, it will be kept clean, it will be in a very good position, and if items are upgraded or something in the operation, they'll be required under the terms of the lease to do this. There is a monument sign, I am told, out front near Chelmsford Street, and we intend to be on that sign. I don't know what else I can say other than that the signs will be internally lighted, and the other thing that I think is unique here, and I'd like to just tell you about it, every one of their restaurants, they have a program like they have, which is for a charity, where they provide food and activities for persons who are either injured, who are veterans, or on Thanksgiving, they have a brunch and they serve turkey in the restaurants. I have a list of all of those projects that they have. They have an annual Christmas toy drive. They has the Taste of Cambridge. Bobby Healy, I assume, would probably be part of that tasting, but I don't know. They have marathon fundraisers. They're a good company. They're a very high-class company, and I think they're a company that will fit in to the city of Lowell because there are a lot of charities and foundations in Lowell who participate in things like this. So I believe they're going to fit in. They're going to fit in very well. And their locations are in Alston, Burlington, North Station, Porter Square. They have a new one and a large one in Salem, and they're very active in the charitable foundation and charitable activities in the city of Salem. There is a picture, Mr. Barron, of their classic bistro steak, smoked sole rub, garlic butter, and demi-truffle, something that I hope would be appealing to you and would be able to induce you to vote in favor of this.
I also enjoy eating, so it's not just for
but
Mr. Perrin.
This is basically what it is. I got this, all of this online. If you would like some additional paper, I would like to have you look at it. If you don't want it, and if you just went online and looked at their website, it's really fantastic what they do, how they do it, and the activities, the charitable activities that they perform. I just want to tell you that we're seeking a special permit, and the gentleman on my left was born and brought up in Brazil. He came over to this country in 1990. He learned to speak English here. He started working in restaurants in the food business, and in that short period of time, he was able to hook on with the people who put together the Tavern on the Square chain. He is a stockholder, he's a member of it, and he's one of the leading executive officers. He also happens to be the owner of a soccer team which is not a Class A, but I guess would be like the Lowell Spinners would be in relation to the Red Sox. And I've asked him if he could somehow explore the possibility of some activity like that in the city of Lowell. I know it's late. I don't want to take any more time. If there is anything that I've omitted, I'd like to raise it with you and have you raise it with us.
Okay, well, I think after that introduction, what I'll do is I'm going to open it up to the public, and then we'll move it to the board, and we'll see where we go from there. Anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor, favor, hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Gary.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Council Nyman, I appreciate your detailed, eloquent outlay of the Tavern at the Green. Certainly, we know that the high-profile building at Cross Point, they are the gem of the city, and they have been improving that property greatly and bringing in this high-quality restaurant, and certainly the professional that's coming with it, and just the mentioning of the charities is something that is that the city is always grateful to have. The only one question I have is as it relates to the illuminated lighting. It doesn't happen often. I get to ask this prior to Mr. McCarthy, but will it be LED? Yes. Okay. To that, I have no further questions. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleague, Mr. Perrin, took my thunder away. I was going to give you the $68,000 question as well, because pretty much every time a sign comes before us, that's always the one. That's always the one. So, thank you very much, Mr. Nyman, and thank you for the presentation. I've been to many of the Tavern of the Squares, and they are it's a very well-run operation. They very good food. The menu is the size of War and Peace. Tons of good laughs, and I'm looking forward to it being there for quite some time. And it's quite different operation for the Cross Point Towers as opposed to the regular businesses that are there. It'll be a great addition, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Sean. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I echo what other people have said. I mean, the folks at Cross Point have been doing, the newest owners have been doing a great job of trying to rebrand the building. There's tons of new employees in there. This restaurant will have access to the theater crowd. The restaurants that are there now are always busy with lines on the weekends, so this will add to the mix in that area. And I too have seen a couple of your other locations, especially the one at North Station. You know, it's the first restaurant you see when you come out of the train station, and it looks good. So I don't have any questions about the signage itself. It's such a large building. It's not facing a residential. The signage isn't facing a residential area, so I don't have any concerns about the signage, which was really all we were here to talk about tonight, right? So,
That's right.
good luck.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Could I throw out one more thing that I heard from my client, that supposedly a new company is going into Cross Point, that there's going to be a public announcement shortly, and supposedly they're going to employ anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 people. And that's supposed to be shortly. That's all I know.
You heard it here first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Tavern in the Square, I've been to the Burlington location. It's a great restaurant. They have amazing food. I think it'll fit in well in the Cross Point building. It's underutilized. So, the sign itself, it's an amazing looking sign. The color scheme looks good. So overall, I think you do well. So thank you for coming to Lowell.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'm glad this is using LED lighting, but I don't know what else you would possibly be using at this point. But I don't understand one sign location, if you could just help me out here. The vertical sign that's being mounted to the building doesn't, so it appears in the southeast elevation, but where on the southern elevation is it going? Because it doesn't appear in this, so it's right at the corner. Okay. I'm asking in particular about the vertical one that's hanging, because it doesn't appear in the south elevation. And so I just was hoping to understand that location a little bit.
Can you see?
Yes.
It's actually down fairly low. It's not up like the Motorola sign.
I guess my question is it at the corner, or is it closer to Chelmsford Street side?
It's at the corner.
It'll be at the corner. Yes. Great. Okay. Good. Nice job on the graphics. They look wonderful. That building needs graphics. It's got lighting, now it's got graphics. Nice job. It's come a long way. And I think that this is a great location for you guys. I think you'll do really well. So, nice presentation. Thank you. A little wordy, but that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So my only question is the first set of photos you showed us, yeah, this one here. So that view, is that outside seating? Is that what that's supposed to represent? Okay. So that's external. So this is on the back of the building, correct? Yeah, yeah, okay. So the only question I had was, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. So that'll be seasonal outdoor seating that's going to be set up. How many, not that it matters about the signage, how many seats you looking at for that? 400, oh, okay. Okay, so we're talking about 3 signs. This one here, then there's one, looks like it's over the entranceway, correct? And then there's the vertical one that Dennis just spoke about. So that vertical one, I know it's not, yeah. But is it tied to, is this, it's supposed to be flipped around there, right? Yeah.
This is where the vertical's going.
Yeah, okay. And you,
Same on this one here, it's actually there.
right, yeah, that's, okay. And Judy, as Mr. Nyman stated, and I think I saw something that was issued later this afternoon, DPD did their review, there's no issues with
Right.
any of the signage, okay.
No.
Well, I think it's, first of all, we got a new business coming into the building, that's a plus. As Dennis mentioned, little by little, that building's coming along, there's been new signage that we've approved already for the, I think the landlord there, and, which I think that signage looks great, so this would be, now, hours of operation, so this will come on basically whatever time you decide to turn it on. So all lights will be off at the close of business?
At 1 o'clock.
1 a.m. would be the latest that the business
Yes.
is open?
I
So
believe that's how long the restaurant will be open, and that's how the liquor license indicates what the hour would be.
Okay, so will the lights be off at 1 o'clock? Yes. Okay, so that's the only condition that we'll put in here, that the illumination is turned off, or all the lights are off by 1 a.m. But beyond that, I believe, the petitioner has met all the conditions for granting the special permit for the signage. And as everybody has mentioned, it'll be a big plus for the city and for the tower and hopefully for Tavern in the Square. So with that said, any other comments or conditions? Okay, so hearing none, go have a motion, please.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2016-09 for a special permit for Tavern in the Square, Lowell at 900 Chelmsford Street, with the following condition: that the internally illuminated signage will be turned off no later than 1 a.m.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Member Callahan?
Approved with conditions.
Member McCarthy?
Approved with condition.
Member Paglia?
Approved with condition.
Member Perrin?
Approved with condition.
Member Peck?
Approved with conditions.
Okay, gentlemen, you've been approved. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you all very much.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, our next order of business is other business. We have minutes that were supplied by DPD. I guess I'll say multiple minutes that were issued to us. Were there any comments by any of the board members? Any comments, corrections? Okay. Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the November 9th, January 25th, and September 14th meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Chairman Bailey?
Approved.
Member Callahan?
Approved.
Member McCarthy?
Approve.
Member Paglia?
Approved.
Member Perrin?
Approved.
And Member Peck?
Approved.
Okay. And Mike, you said our next meeting is March what? 7th? 14th, okay. All right, so Anything else from anybody? Hearing none, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
So moved.
Right.